Welcome back to the She Shed. Today's tutorial is part 2 and we are going to be making a beanie to match the mittens made in part 1. So if you have watched part 1, you will see me spin the brown wool. So I carded this and made this from raw wool, so a raw fleece, and I carded it, spun it, washed it, made it into the yarn, which is here, and from that I then made these mittens, and I do have enough to make a beanie, and hopefully we will do part 3, which will be socks. So I want to make the beanie to match these, so I am using not only my brown that I did in part 1, but also the white that I spun up earlier a while back. I spun this up, and this is a creamy white color from another sheep. Not sure which one, I think it was Andy's was this sheep. And this one came, I have no idea what it was called because it came in a blank bag, just fleece, saying wool, fleece, raw. Okay, so let's get started on this project. What you will need is a 4mm hook. I do all my spinning to a 4mm hook. You will eventually need scissors and a yarn needle, and of course the pattern. The pattern I am using I downloaded from the internet, and I downloaded from this website, LillaBjornCrochet.com, just there, and I'll put a link below to this, and we'll go over the pattern when we're up to doing the pattern. So this is called Mosaic Crochet. It looks a bit daunting to start off with, but as you can see from the mittens, it produces really cool effects and just looks really great. And it is quite fun and simple to do once you've got the hang of it. To start off with, we will need to do a slip knot, and we are going to start with the rim of the beanie. We are going to be chaining 24 stitches. When you've got your chain of 24, chain 1, and we are going to be doing single crochet in each stitch. So it is hook into the stitch, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. Work your way down each 24 stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and now we are going to be working into the V of the stitch. So you can see the stitch here with the V, we're working in the middle of that stitch. So put your hook in, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, pull it through the 2 loops on the hook. So just working into the V of every stitch, and this will make that ribbed effect that we have on the mittens. We're putting that same effect on the beanie, and you keep doing this stitch all the way for as many rows as would fit around your head. Now ideally this should be a multiple of 12, because this is what the pattern is going to be, a multiple of 12. So there's the 12 and there's the other 12, and we're going to keep repeating the 12 all the way along until, and you want it to match up together at the end of your beanie when you do your round, so it needs to be exactly a multiple of 12. Ideally this would be something like around about 72 rows or 84 rows. Okay, so let's continue with doing your rib stitch, and we're going to be you're going to be making as many rows as you require to fit around your head. So keep going on with your ribbing, and I will meet you back here at the end of your that rim, and we will go from there. When you have finished doing all your ribs, I ended up with 84, so that is a multiple of 12. Make sure that you have finished your last row the opposite side of where your tail is. So there we are, my tail is down here, and I finished up the top on the opposite side. And this is when we're going to join our headband together. To join the two ends together, fold the two in half, and we are going to marry up the stitches along both ends. And we are going to join this together via a slip stitch. So you need to start off with putting your hook into the very first stitch on the opposite side. Grab a yarn, pull it through both on your hook. Then we go into the V of the next stitch, put your hook in that V, and then on the corresponding next stitch, put your hook in to there, grab your yarn, pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. And repeat that process as you go. So finding the next stitch, put your hook into the next stitch, corresponding stitch on the other side, grab your yarn, pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. Okay, I'm going to leave you to repeat this process all the way along until you've joined the 2 sides together, and this will leave you with a seamless join. After joining your rim together, turn your work inside out, and this is now going to be the right way of your work. So this is now the outside, and you can see that the seam has blended quite nicely and is quite difficult to see. This first row of our beanie, so the first row around the rim, will be the first row of our pattern. So here is our pattern, and this is the first row of the pattern. And this is where I'll tell you a little bit about how the pattern actually works. So we are going to be doing the repeat. The repeat is this here, these 12 rows here. And they have shown it on here to be 1 lot here, the second lot there. So there's 2 repeats on this, but because I have 84 stitches, there are going to be 7 repeats on this beanie. We are only doing these 12 and repeating that. We are not going to be doing this row, and we are not going to be doing these 2 rows. So feel free to scrub them out like I have, so you don't get lost of where you're up to. Another tip that I have is to also write on your sheet what colors are going to be matching up with the rows here. So we've got the grey and the white. So my brown, if I can get my pen to work, there we go, is going to be the grey, and conveniently my white will be white. Now another way of looking at this is the greys are odd, so my browns will be the odd numbers, and my whites are going to be the even numbers. Okay, so there's 2 ways for you to remember which row you're doing. But let's just do this first row. So if you are following along with me, this first row here is establishing my 84 stitches on the beanie around the rim, and I am going to do them as a half double crochet. I am also going to, when I'm doing my stitches, weave this in at the same time. So I'm going to do my stitches over the end there, and therefore it saves you sewing them in later. So in every single row, so rows are really easy to see because you've got a ridge, you've got the dip in and then the ridge and then down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see every single one there is a row. So there's the row, there's the row, there's the row. You are putting a stitch in the top of each row. So half double crochet, yarn over, go in the top of the stitch, the row, sorry. Grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, pull through the 3 loops on the hook. Now my next one is going into the dip, so grab your yarn, go into the top of that row, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn and go through all 3. So we're now going in the top of the ridge, grab the yarn, and so on and so forth at the top of every row. Now do make sure that you are, if you're following along with me, that you are making your 84 stitches. If you are doing another number of stitches, just make sure it is a multiple of 12. Your pattern is not going to work if you do not do it as a multiple of 12. Okay, I will meet you back here after you have got your correct number of stitches. At the end of your row, make sure that you have got your 84 stitches. Remember, it's really, really important that you have your multiple of 12. And once you've done that, you need to join your row together. And what you need to do is go into the front of the first stitch, pull your yarn through, and then pull that through the stitch on your hook. So you're doing a slip stitch. This is where we're now going to change our yarn to the other color. So get your other color and do a slip knot and put your other color on the hook. Pull this through, tighten your brown, tighten the white, make sure the brown is really, really tight, and chain 1 with your white. And constantly just make sure that your brown is tight. And you might need to do that several times as until the stitches are secure. Okay. Now for this round we are going into the back of each stitch and doing a single crochet. So you just go into the back of the first stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the 2 on your hook. Okay, so you'll see the V there. There's the V. So you're going into the V, pulling the yarn through, grab your yarn and pull through the 2 on your hook. So this means that when you're going into the back of the stitch, you're leaving the front, and you'll see in the next row how important having that front is, because that's what we go into when we're doing the drop down double crochets. So going into the V, pull yarn through and then through the 2, and we're doing this for the entire row. So I will meet you back here at the end of this row, and at the end of this row also double check that you've got your 84 stitches or your multiple of 12. At the end of your second row, you are going to slip stitch to join into the first stitch of the row. Once again, make sure you've got the 84 stitches, and this is where now we are going to really see the pattern happening. So let's take a look at the pattern. We have done row 1 and we have done row 2. We're now on row 3, which is going to the brown, because remember the brown are the odd numbers. So brown here, and our first stitch is a drop down double crochet, because you can see it's all brown, all grey, which is my brown, all the way down. So what we are reading is this is a drop down double crochet. Then remember when I said that if it's the opposite color, that means it is a single crochet in the back of the stitch. It's only one black here and one black here, so they both single crochet in the back of the stitch. So we're doing, starting again, drop down double crochet, half double crochet in the back of the stitch, same again, so there's 3, and then we're doing a drop down double crochet, single single single, drop down, single single single, drop down, single single single, drop down, single single single, drop down. As you can see, there's a pattern there. So for this row we're doing a drop down, 3 singles, drop down, 3 singles, drop down, 3 singles, drop down for the whole entire row. Now you need to make sure when you finish your row, you're going to finish your row on a 3 single double crochets in the back of the stitch to then meet up with the stitch you started off with, which was a drop down double crochet. Okay, so let's get started so we show you how this is done. So a drop down double crochet is what we're starting off with. So we're now going back to the other color. For me that is brown. We're swapping the color over, so bring your color through, pull your other color tight. So for me that is white, pulling my white tight and chaining 1. So I've just got to make sure that my white stays tight. Now my first stitch is going to be the drop down double crochet. So yarn over, and where you see the first stitch there, you need to pick up underneath that stitch. There is that brown there. So you're going underneath that stitch there. See, I've got the brown, and then pull your yarn through, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's my drop down double crochet. So it says for the next 1, 2, 3 is a single crochet in the back of the stitch. So that is single crochet, single crochet, single crochet. So you can see I did that in the back of the stitch, 1, 2, 3. So my next stitch now is the drop down double crochet. So we are going to go, there's the stitch, go down, there's my underneath. I'm going to put my hook underneath there, pull my yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we know that the next 3 stitches are going to be half double crochet in the back of the stitch, half double crochet in the back of the stitch, and half double crochet in the back of the stitch. Now the next stitch is going to be a drop down, so there we go, there's the stitch there, the underneath. Put your hook in to that loop, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the 2, grab your yarn, pull through the 2 on the hook. Okay, you can see patterns just starting to appear now. So let's keep going for a few more. Then we know that the next 3 is your half double crochet in the back of the stitch, and then a drop down. So find your stitch, go straight down underneath and do your double crochet, and then 3 3 singles in the back of the stitch, and then our double crochet, and then 3 in the back of the stitch, and we're going to repeat this all the way around as the pattern says we need to. Okay, so as you can see, our pattern is starting to appear, and we're just going to repeat this 3 single crochets in the back of the stitch and then your drop down double crochet. And I'm going to meet you back here when you have come back to this point here, which should be 3 single single crochet in the back of the stitch, so that it will then line up with this double crochet drop down that we did here. Coming to the end of this row, and I'm left with 3 single crochet in the back of the stitch, which is exactly what the pattern said should happen. And so we need to join this together. So you started your row with your end of your row, and therefore we're doing a slip stitch at the front of the first stitch. Bring your yarn through and through. There we go. So we finished that first row. Well, it's the third row of the pattern, I should say. Now, so we finished that row. Now the next row we need to switch to our white. So bring your white through, pull your brown tight, and then chain 1. And then for this row, we need to go single crochet in the back of the stitch, and then you'll see that the next one is we have to do a drop down drop down double crochet. Then we're doing 1, 2, 3 singles, then a drop down, then a single, then a drop down, then 1, 2, 3 singles, then a drop down, then a single, then a drop down. Okay, so let's start this white. We're going to do a single crochet, and a good way of knowing that you're at the right spot is look at the row beforehand, that it was a drop down double crochet, so your single has to go on the top of that. So there is my drop down double crochet right there. So we're going to do a single crochet in the back of the stitch, making sure that I am above the drop down double crochet from before. So yes, I am. And then it says the next one is a drop down double crochet. So I'm looking to see here, there's my previous one, and here's that stitch there. So I'm going to do a drop down double crochet and get my hook underneath there, and there we go, drop down double crochet there. And then my next 1, 2, 3 are single crochets. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then the next one is here, that says a drop down double crochet, and then the next one is a single followed by a drop down. So let's go single and then a drop down. And then we've got 1, 2, 3. So let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, and then a drop down. So we're going 1, 2, 3 singles, and then a drop down. And then, so we're here, and then it's a single and a drop down. So we go single, and then a drop down. And then it is 1, 2, 3, and a drop down, single, drop down. So 1, 2, 3, drop down, single, and then a drop down. And you'll see that there's a pattern occurring here. So you will see now that it is 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, drop down, single, drop down, and that's what the pattern is for this one. So it's 1, 2, 3, drop down, single, drop down, 1, 2, 3, drop down, single, drop down, 1, 2, 3, drop down, single, drop down. So you can see that that pattern is running all the way around. So continue doing that, and I will meet you back here, and you should be finishing off on this row with a drop down, which will meet right here to do your drop down right there. So at the end of this row we need to finish at a drop down double crochet. So that is in there, and then finish off the row joining the two together by doing a slip stitch for the two. Alrighty, so the next row we're going to change over to our brown. So bring your brown through, tighten off your white, chain 1, and for this row we are doing single, single, drop down, single, 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 drop down, single, 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 drop down, single, single. So you can see the pattern there. So we're doing 2 single and then a drop down double. So let's go, and making sure my single goes above the white, and the, yep, there we go, it's going in there. Single, and then it was a single, and then the next one was a drop down double crochet. So drop down double, and then the pattern just goes single, 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 and then a drop down double. Now you know you're going in the right spot if you're going into that little square there. And then it goes single, 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 drop down, double crochet, and then it went single, 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 drop down, double crochet. So I'm going to leave you to do that, finish that row off. At the end of row 5 we need to finish with a drop down double crochet and a single. So I've done my drop down, so I should just have the single left, and then join the row together with a slip stitch. Okay, change over to the white, bring your white through, pull your brown tight, chain 1, and we are now on row 6. So row 6 makes it look like you're starting off with a brown, but no, remember, if it's you're on your white row and it has the opposite color, it means that is white. So we're doing 1, 2, 3 single, 1 drop down, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles, 1 drop down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles, 1 drop down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles, so on and so forth. So we are doing, to start this row, 1, 2, 3 singles. So making sure I'm starting in the right spot. One, two, three. Oh, no, getting carried away. 1, 2, 3. Yep, it was 3. 1, 2, 3, and then a drop down double, and then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see you did the drop down double, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles, drop down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles, drop, and that's what the pattern is now. We're doing 5 singles and 1 drop down for the rest of this row. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 drop down. Okay, and then it's another 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a drop down. Alright, so I'm going to leave you to finish this row off, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. So remember, we're now just doing 5 singles and 1 drop down. Alright, I'll meet you back there. Coming to the end of that row, so I've just done this drop down and we've got 2 single crochets left to go. So 1, 2, and then finishing off your row by doing a slip stitch to join the row together. Changing over to the brown, bring your brown through, tighten off your white and chain 1. So that is row 6 done, and row 7 we need to start this row with a drop down double crochet. Okay, so yarn over, and the drop down is going to go right there. Now that's quite easy to see because your previous drop down is underneath, and you can see here that your drop downs are lining up, so you need to put your drop down there. And then we are going, so here we are at 7, drop down, 1, 2, 3, drop down, 1, 2, 3, drop down, 1, 2, 3, drop down. So you can see the pattern there, that we're doing 3 single crochets, then a double crochet drop down, 3 single, double crochet drop down, 3 single, and so on and so forth. So 3 singles, and then a drop down, double crochet, and then 3 singles. And then a drop down double crochet, and 3 singles. So continue doing that for this round, and I'll meet you back here at the end of this row. Finishing off the end of this row, so we've just done a drop down double crochet, and it's 1, 2, 3 single crochets, which is exactly what I've got left. 1, 2, 3, and then joining the row together, slip stitch in the first stitch of the row. Okay, so you can start seeing the pattern coming through now. And there we are, we've just done row 7. And I think you pretty much got the idea of how this works and what your pattern requires. I'm going to continue the pattern, and then when I come back I'll let you know where I got to, and then I'll show you how I'm going to finish up the beanie. So I'll see you back here at the end of the pattern. I'm sure you've got the idea of it now and you can work on it on your own now. Okie dokie, so I'm on my last row of white on this pattern. So we're going to cut off the white and bring through the brown, and you can pull the white and just leave it there. We're going to work over that white on our next row. So as you know by looking at the pattern, the last row of brown there, and it will be a drop down, 3 singles, drop down, 3 singles, drop down, 3 singles, drop down, 3 singles, so on and so forth to finish that row off, and that will finish off our pattern. So if you continue that one, and I'll meet you back at the end of that row and show you how we're going to finish off the beanie. Now that we have finished the pattern and looking very good, we are going to finish the top of the beanie, and we are going to do the next 3 rows in decrease. For this row we are going to decrease on every 4th stitch, and we're going to do a half double crochet in each stitch. So we're not going into the back of the stitch anymore, we're just going to go straight under the stitch and do a half double crochet. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then to decrease we go into the next stitch, pull your yarn through, into the following stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over and pull through the 3 loops on your hook. Then let's do another 3 half double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. So we are going to go into the next stitch, pull your yarn through, into the following stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over through the 3 on your hook. Then 1, 2, 3, and then decrease, yarn into the next stitch, pull yarn through, yarn into the following stitch, pull yarn through, and yarn over, pull through the 3. So I'm going to leave you to decrease this row to the end, and I'll meet you back at the end. We've finished that row, join the row together, and the next row we are going to decrease on every 3rd stitch. So you will do 1, 2, and then a decrease, and 1, 2, and then a decrease. Alright, I will leave you to finish that row, and I'll meet you back here at the end of this row. At the end of that row we've come to our last row of decrease, and we're going to be decreasing on every 2nd row. So do 1 row of half double crochet, and then the next is a decrease. Then the next is 1 half double crochet, and then the next is a decrease. And I will meet you back here at the end of this row. At the end of that row, that is our last row of our beanie, and we are now going to end off. Just make sure you've got enough yarn that goes around the top of the beanie. Cut that off and pull that through. And now we're going to sew up the top. So get your yarn needle and weave your yarn needle, your yarn, through the very top of the beanie. Okay, put your yarn needle through to the inside and turn your beadie inside out. And pull, but pull gently, don't pull too tightly, you don't want to break your yarn. And then proceed to sew up the hole so it doesn't come open. Once you have that sewn up enough times that your hole is closed, if you want to sew a pom-pom on, put your needle back through so it's in the middle, and then grab your pom-pom. Now I've got a choice of two to use here and I'm not sure which one to use. I've got my white faux fur or my brown faux fur. I don't know which one to use. I'm going towards the brown. I thought I'd go towards the white, but I'm going towards the brown because the white is not cream enough. So maybe the brown. Yeah, I'll do the brown. Okay, so there's a little, on my pom-poms, there's a little white tag, little elastic band there. So I just put the needle through there and then go through the top of the beanie and just weave that back and forth until the pom-pom is secure. Okay, last one. Secure off. And there we go. Beanie all finished. Okay, well I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial and you have a fabulous mosaic crochet beanie for yourself. If you do want to see the matching mitten tutorial, I will leave the link below. Otherwise, have a great day everybody. I hope your mosaic beanie has turned out brilliantly. If you do have any photos, love to see them, so please share them with me. Either message me or you can go to my Instagram page and leave it there at lucky_platypus1. Thank you everybody for sticking around and watching, and have a great day everyone. See you next time at the next tutorial. Bye everybody.